Thanksgiving weekend? Superman. That's right. I'm playing the Superman theme on Thanksgiving weekend because somehow it ties into this Thanksgiving story and what my next guest, Kevin D. Miller, wants to share for Thanksgiving specifically. Kevin, first of all, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you, Alex. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to talking to you.
So you write this book called Heart of Steel, and it's kind of, the topic is around Thanksgiving and how maybe hard family conversations should be had, shouldn't be had, where we stand on that. But let's dive into the book first of all. Why'd you write it? Why Heart of Steel?
Well, the reason I wrote it is I was inspired by my grandfather's story. We came across some old newspaper articles and found out that my last name really isn't Miller. It's actually very Polish, Puchalski. And my grandfather, he had a lot of secrets. He took this secret to his grave with him. And we just kind of, when we started reading these newspaper articles, we learned of a tragedy that happened in 1920 where my great-grandfather was actually murdered in his sleep. He was shot in the head. My great-grandmother was bound and gagged, and they were robbed of $600. And my grandfather, who was 12 at the time, they lived in a farm in rural Ohio, was sent to the sheriff's office. And then as the newspaper articles expanded, a scandal took effect, and a lot of twists and turns and stuff went on there. So the story became more and more intriguing. And the more and more research I did, I learned just what a Superman my grandfather actually was, especially as a 12, almost 13-year-old boy. He's got quite an incredible story, and I just had to tell the story. I just said, this is a story I've got to tell, even though, he kept it secret to his grave. I just figured I got to tell the story.
Kevin, I started reading this today, and your guys sent us it over today, and I was just, I started choking up. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what he had to endure as a 12-year-old. Yeah. We don't want to give it all away because it's in the book, but just give us a glimpse into why he's such a hero to you.
The reason he's such a hero, and I guess this kind of ties into Thanksgiving and family and all this stuff, is that he taught me in reading the story and writing the story that, you never give up on your family, no matter what they're going through, no matter what you're going through. I mean, family's everything. You stick with them, through addiction, through whatever tragedy, through whatever you're going through. He was a man that he was the patriarch of our family, and he was the person everyone turned to because he was always there for you. And as a 12, 13-year-old boy, facing what he faced and going through, I'm just blown away. I was close to him, but I never knew, the depth of who he was.
And so how many Thanksgivings would you say you went to with him while he was on this earth? How many Thanksgivings would you have gone with him, and of course your dad and mom and their side of the family as well?
Like dozens. I knew him. My grandfather passed away in 1985 of colon cancer, and I was about 28 years old at the time. So, I knew him very well, and we spent a lot of Thanksgivings and Christmases and holidays and different things together. So,
and I ask that, Kevin, because you're telling me through all these Thanksgivings, through all these family gatherings, you guys never knew, not even your father knew about this story that he was holding on to.
Not even my father. None of us knew. We all thought our name was Miller, and he changed our name in 1920 to cover up. And actually, he did it to protect his family, because in 1920, a scandal breaks out, and he didn't want, the judgmental stuff or whatever to come on in his family. So he changed our family name, and he kept that a secret. And him and his siblings swore an oath of silence, and they kept it very, very silent.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, this is fascinating. Keep going, because I want my listeners to know more about this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was going to share that on his deathbed, my uncle Rick, my dad's younger brother, he asked him, as he was dying, he's like, Pops, he's like, tell me about your life. And my grandfather just looked at him and raised one finger, and he says, don't ever ask me about my life. and he soon passed after that. And he took everything that was hurtful and, to the grave with him. And he carried that burden. He carried that weight on himself. He didn't lean on anyone else. He carried that and took it to the grave with him. And to me, it's just amazing. How do you carry that, knowledge and that tragedy and that hurt with you your entire life?
Now, have you guys, you obviously didn't find this out when you were 28. What research went into finding out the paper clippings, just that alone?
Here's how it happened. My uncle Rick, who I just mentioned, was at a funeral, and he was approached by some cousins of ours who were doing some research into ancestry, and they came across these newspaper articles, and they handed it to him and said, hey, you might want to read these, because your name's not really Miller, and so that's how we found out, that our name wasn't Miller, it was Puhalski, and that's what started the research. It's like, okay, and because there was a bunch of these articles that kind of spanned out over a week and a half as the murder case, the murder mystery kind of starts, revealing itself. So that's where it started, So we kind of got the gist of the story there, and then started researching it deeper later on.
So you tie this into Thanksgiving. I want to know: do you think sites like Ancestry.com and 23andMe and all this, do you think that helps the conversation, or at the dinner table at Thanksgiving, or is this like another "don't talk politics, don't talk ancestry"?
Yeah, you know what? I my personal experience, my personal opinion is I think it's great. I think, obviously, there's a possibility there that you may learn some things that you didn't want to know, But my personal experience is I'm glad I know this. I'm glad I learned this story, and even in writing the story, I'd get choked up. I'd get emotional because it's an emotional story, and But I think that you should. I welcomed and with open arms, learning what I needed to learn and doing the 23andMe DNA testing. It showed me where my relatives came from, and the roots there, and my Polish heritage, the ancestry. It revealed a lot to me, a lot of secrets and stuff to me. But then again, I'm speaking for myself because there are a lot of people who have secrets revealed that they probably didn't want to know. So it's kind of a personal choice, really. You really got to kind of take that into consideration before you make that decision.
Now, Kevin D. Miller, I have this. How many relatives and how many people did you interview, did you talk to put this book together? Because it's so comprehensive, minute by minute, really.
Yeah, actually, I interviewed quite a few. Like I said, my dad's 86. He was a great resource because he knew a lot about my grandfather, not necessarily all his secrets. But I also got some documents from him and some letters. One letter in particular was from my dad's cousin Frances, who was the daughter of Sophie, and she knew a little bit more than most everybody did. And in that letter, it revealed quite a bit of information there. But I knew my grandfather personally as well too, so I could pull from that. And my grandmother, I talked to my siblings, I talked to cousins and uncles, other relatives and stuff, just trying to get pieces from each person to kind of put the puzzle together. And
the culprits that you reveal in the book, the culprits of this whole scandal, do they have siblings that or ancestors now that might have retribution, or are you worried about that at all, or is there a side to that?
No, I'm not. I'm not concerned about that because it was 99 years ago that the murder took place, and most everybody in the story is gone. It's interesting because my father actually got contacted by a granddaughter of Siskey, and she was looking for information on him and couldn't really find any. And she actually bought the book and read it, and she liked the book. She said the book was good and stuff, but, I don't know her perception or how she felt about how I described her grandfather. She said he actually disappeared. They didn't know where he went. They didn't know that he went to prison for 20 years. So she didn't even have a picture of him. You know, she was asking how I knew the description of him. Well, that's just part of being a writer. I don't know what he looked like either, so I had to kind of come up with a description. In the areas that I don't really know the facts, you know, I have to then just use my imagination and my creativity as a writer to pull the story together and keep it flowing.
So this isn't your first book you've written, obviously.
Yes, it's my first. It's my first book. Won't be the last, but
you love to write, so you wanted to incorporate your writing creative style into honoring your family and your grandfather this Thanksgiving.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
So your grandfather took the story to his grave, and I'm just curious if you ever wanted to protect that story, or was it just too important for others to know that you said, you know what, let's write about this?
Yeah, Alex, that's a great question. That really is a great question. It's something I kind of struggle with a little bit because it's a good point. I mean, he was adamant at taking that secret to the grave with him. But after reading the story, I mean, after doing the research and everything that I found out and uncovered about him and his character and stuff, it's a story I just had to tell. It's like I really felt it needed to be told. I wanted to tell the story. I wanted to honor him. And it's also an inspirational story that I think people will connect with. You know, people will connect with the story and be inspired by it even, and kind of, because the overall message, you know, of the story is your family. You never give up on your family. You know, you push through and you got each other's backs, you know. So
we've had some stuff
I had to tell.
We've had some stuff in our family come out, but you know what? We're going to be together at Thanksgiving. It's going to be beautiful. And I think, in a way, Thanksgiving is a great day to heal the family after these stories come out, and like, wow, what can we learn? But also, how can we use this to unify us? Do you find that that's a unifying factor in your family?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I think it's a very unifying factor, and I think those things, I mean, because, you know, like I said, you need to look out for each other. Family needs to look out for each other. They need to watch each other's back. They need to protect, you know, every family has its secrets and you know, and problems and stuff, but that's that family's business, and it should be, you know, respected and protected and looking out for each other, you know, and Thanksgiving is that day to kind of share those things and share family and talk about family. And so I agree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Now, Kevin, I know you're a veteran as well, so thank you for your service. What tours were you in? Where did you serve, and how did you serve? I was in
the United States Air Force. I spent 8 years in the Air Force back in the late 70s to mid 80s. So I spent some time in Grand Forks, North Dakota, a very, very cold place. I spent some time in Lubbock, Texas. I was a electronic technician working on ground navigational aids equipment for aircraft.
I would say, so first of all, your time away from your family on Thanksgiving must have really affected you back in those days.
Oh yeah, it did, because we're 2,000 miles away. You know, not a lot of the times that we would try to take leave and go spend it with my family, but there were Thanksgivings that we were on our own, basically. I mean, I had a wife and children with me, but you know, we didn't have, obviously, the big family Thanksgiving to look forward to. So, yeah, we missed out on a few of those.
Would you say that your grandfather's story, now, obviously, you didn't know about it back in the 70s, 80s, but obviously he had an influence on you even overseas. Like, he would constantly on your mind, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, no, he was. And my grandfather, you know, he lived in Ohio, and I remember going up there for a class when I was in the military at Wright-Patterson, Ohio, and he flew me up to his cabin. So I got to visit him up there. And this was just prior to him dying. He had cancer at the time, and I had no idea, because he didn't let on. I mean, he just was a man that just did. That's why I'm calling Superman's appropriate, because he didn't complain. And it was the last time I saw him and the last time I got to speak with him. And I saw a gentle side of him, you know, because he was a very tough guy, you know, very loving guy, but very tough. And he never let on that he was sick.
Well, and your grandfather sounds like a pure example of the greatest generation, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Totally agree.
So your father writes the foreword to the book, and why is this so meaningful to him? Well,
that was another reason I wrote the book as well. My dad's 86 years old. He thinks highly of his dad, and he didn't even know these things that were going on. And I wanted to dedicate this book to him as well. I wanted to complete this book and autograph it and hand him a copy, and I got to do that. And that was a nice check mark off my bucket list, because it meant the world to me. The story means the world to him. I mean, he encouraged me to write it. And when I wrote it, he said, you know what? It's not nice to make your dad cry, because when he read the book, it choked him up. He relived a lot of tough memories as well. But he was very thankful that I took the time to write the book. And that was one of my motivating factors at writing it.
And for you personally, you talk about this, as you said, you just got choked up. Does getting the story make you feel a certain way every time you tell it to different outlets?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you say it again, Alex? I didn't catch that.
Sure. So you tell the story often to different outlets. What's it like because you said you get choked up. What's it like telling it every time? I'm sure there's different emotions that come into that, even just interview process.
Yeah, it is, but I kind of feel the same feelings every time, because I'm very close to the story. I'm very passionate about the story, and it took a lot, from me emotionally writing it. And so talking about it, I still have those same emotions and feelings and such when anybody asks me about the story and to tell them about the story. And I'm more than happy to talk about the story, because I think it's something that can touch people's lives, which is why
now
I like to.
Do you feel like a Petrosky now, or do you still feel like a Miller? What's the feeling like now?
That's funny, because when we found out, our name, it was like an identity crisis. It's like, who are we? Because we had no idea. But I feel like both. I mean, my grandfather gave me that name. He gave me the name Miller, so that's my name. But at the same time, I know I'm a Puhalski as well. So I take pride in that as learning, that I have a Polish heritage, and a lot of history there as well. So I embrace both names. Mm-hmm.
Now, it was pitched to me as, how does someone handle dirty family secrets at Thanksgiving? So I guess that's one of my questions. How do people deal with this at Thanksgiving if they're not ready to?
Yeah, dirty family secrets. I know that's a tough one, and I don't claim by any means to be an expert on that, but my main thing is, once again, it goes back to family. You kind of have to embrace each other and have each other's back, and it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to get angry with each other, as long as you understand that you're family and you lift each other up, and you fix problems and you protect each other. You have to kind of work it out like that. I mean, there's always the relative there that's obnoxious, or the person who's got an addiction problem or such. But once again, learning from my grandfather's lesson, the lesson in the book, you got to pick each other up, and just be there for,
and by the way,
each other no matter what.
That's what Kevin Miller's grandfather did. He picked up the whole family when the chips were down, when everything was falling apart. Your grandfather picked it right up. That is remarkable.
Yeah, it really is, Alex. It's a remarkable story, and I'm just, moved by it, and I'm so happy to tell the story and honor the man.
And by the way, we're talking with Kevin D. Miller. He's the author of Heart of Steel. Is it out now, Kevin?
Yeah, the book is out. It's been out since August. You can go to heartofsteelbook.com to learn more about the book and the story, and actually get the links to Amazon. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's also available at Walmart, I believe, as well. But heartofsteelbook.com will get you all the links and a lot more information.
And he probably never saw that unfolding the way it did. Is that right? He never saw his life unfold the way it did at 12 years old.
No. I'm sure he did not see it unfold like that, and he just took what life gave him, and just kind of punched it in the face, and took care of his family and did what he had to do. And he did that his entire life. He was just that kind of man.
And there's a resiliency to keep going after your father, after the scandal happened,
Right, exactly. Yeah, just to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how far you go along in the interviews, but he lost his dad. I mean, this is the thing. It's just an incredible story, and I can't imagine it happening that way.
Yeah, no, it is an incredible story, and it does affect my dad. And he lost, when we lost my grandfather, it was tough, but it became tough and just kind of reopened all those things when we started learning all this information about him. And the story, it's tough. It's an emotional story, but I do bring you back up towards the end, because as he grows up, he seeks his own happiness, and he finds my grandmother, who was a feisty Irish woman, and he was married to her for 59 years. And he went through his own struggles, and she was there for him to kind of, pull him out of some things as well, too. So if you like a love story, the story ends, with a love story just like that. But
Kevin,
got a little bit of everything in it.
Could you ever tell there was something weighing on his mind that he never would tell anybody? Could you just tell there was something there?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Looking back, I would say yes to that. I mean, at the time, I didn't think nothing of it, but looking back, I'm like, yeah, he kept so much inside, and he revealed so little, because he was always thinking of everybody else and not himself.
And obviously, because my dad's 82 now, actually, and he's still very stoic. He's like, no, I'm okay. I can keep. When his health. Right. How was he with his health? I have to ask, because obviously when they get up there, they still think everything's going to be okay.
Right. No, and that's exactly how he was. He died at 78. He probably would have lived a few years longer, but he was just one of those people that just tolerated pain. I mean, even not just emotional pain, but physical pain. He was a tough guy. I think my uncle told me a story one time that he pulled his own tooth. That's actually in the book, and it's actually a true story. He just having a problem with a tooth, takes some pliers and just pulls it out. Never complains. And but with his cancer that he was dying of, we didn't know. He just didn't complain about it. He didn't complain about being in pain.
Well, I'm just thinking. I think a lot of families find things to complain about, and your story shows, hey, you don't have to complain about everything on the face of the earth, that there are some good things going on in this family.
Right. Exactly. And that's kind of how he looked, is take the positive look, take the positive road, instead of always the negative and looking for what's wrong with your life, and think about all the things that are right and all the things that you can do to make it right, because it's like we kind of write our own story in life, right?
Sure.
I mean, we got the pen. If we don't like how our life's going, write a different chapter, change the story. And that's kind of what he did in his life, is he changed his story. He took control of his life, and he was dealt some bad cards, but he found a way, to make them pay off.
Well, so the book's out. What do you hope those that, because I think you and I can agree there's a lot of people finding problems with everything. Sure. Do you think this story truly could touch their heart and say, you know what, my life is not that bad at all?
I really do, Alex. I really do, and I wouldn't have wrote the book, if I didn't feel that way. I truly do feel that way. And the feedback and reviews that I get from readers from all over the country kind of have the same theme. They're all saying, is this book made me cry? I couldn't put it down. It made me laugh. I felt anger. I felt the emotion of him, but it lifted me up and inspired me. So I think it touches, a place in people's hearts and emotions that they relate to. Because it's a common, thing that we share, I think, and
sure.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, you're right. And speaking of commonality, I would say this is a great Thanksgiving gift in a way, because it will give people a sense of reasons to be thankful and show why your story is a thankful one, for sure.
Oh, yes, definitely. Most definitely.
And I know I'm going to keep reading it on my PDF. It's so gripping. It is a page turner, Kevin. So congratulations on that.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
And so any last advice for people that want to find this book, that want to read this book, that want to buy this book, and where can we follow you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you go to heartofsteelbook.com, everything's up there. I've got all my social media up there that you can click on and follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel as well, and the link's on the website. And I also have all the links where you can purchase the book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and there's a lot of more information, additional information that I post on the site, pictures, photographs, some background stuff, that you'll find interesting, probably more so after you read the book. So I would invite everybody to go to heartofsteelbook.com and check it out and get the links from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kevin D. Miller, for joining us today. It is it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, so thanks for joining the Saturday Sit Down. Yes,
thank you, Alex, and you have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too. God bless you and happy Thanksgiving.
God bless you as well. Thanks, Alex.
I'm Alexander Garrett. That was Kevin D. Miller, Heart of Steel author, and thanks to him for joining us. We'll see you again here on Keep It Real with Alexander Garrett. Hey, thank you so much, Kevin. I tried not to reveal a lot in the book, but I feel like there are some facets that we should, 'cause